Welcome to the Good Morning from the Chicken Coop podcast with Kim Johnson, your creative strategist and master mindset coach. Filled with inspiration, distinctions, perspectives, and possibilities, we help you to cultivate a mindset that leads you to create the best version of yourself you could ever imagine. Join Kim every morning from one of her favorite happy places, her chicken coop, along with all her chickens.
Hey everybody, good morning from the chicken coop. So the question of the day is, what are you willing to do to help yourself? What are you willing to do to get yourself to the next level? What are you willing to do to put yourself at a spot that you can be proud of and happy of? And the reason I'm asking this question is because often we want outcomes and we're not willing to do the things that we need to do in order to get those outcomes. We will be, I often love the fact that people will say things like, well, she's got all of this, or he's got all of this, or this person has all of this. And they get jealous of the fact that these people have all these things. And the reality is those people are working their butts off to get what they, have and be able to do all the things that they do. And, you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg and you're not seeing all the work that went in underneath. You're only seeing what's that outward look of stuff. You're not seeing anything underneath and how much they poured into themselves. And so it's really easy to sit there and say, I'm going to judge someone else's result and say, wow, this isn't fair. I want this, blah, 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 blah. But you're not willing to pour in the work for yourself. And sometimes this becomes just a moment of clarity when I'll say to people, well, look, ask yourself, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to work 13-hour days if that's what it takes? Are you willing to study and take a course that has 250 hours that you have to do to get the certifications? Are you willing to have the good attitude about doing it all and be happy, or are you just going to be miserable in the process? Because if you're just going to be miserable while you're doing it, there's no point in doing it, because the results will end up taking forever, or by the time they get here, you won't even want them because you'll be so beaten up by the process. You got to have a good attitude about doing it all, and you've got to be excited about doing it all, and you got to say, listen, it's going to be work and it's going to be worth it. But sometimes we get so caught up in this, vortex of not being able to see past it and not recognizing that all of this comes down to, what are we willing to do? What are we willing to do? And really being honest with ourselves. Again, you'll find that a lot of our conversations are going to loop back to honesty, because when we're not honest with ourselves, it absolutely rips us apart, because we're constantly living in that state of lying to ourselves and we're never able to get the outcomes that we want. So take this podcast, for instance. When I said I was going to start shooting a podcast, I had to really dig deep to say, well, if I'm going to do these little segments and I'm going to have them be 5 minutes a day, am I willing to do it every single day? Am I willing to go out there and make this every single day? And I waited a long time before I answered that question, because I kept going back and forth with myself and making sure I could get happy enough and excited enough to do it. Well, as soon as I realized I could do it from my happy place, which is my chicken coop, it was a no-brainer. Yes, I can absolutely do it. And I thought of it that way the moment I said, I'm going to shoot this with the chickens, and then boom, all is well. So point being, you can get yourself there, but you have to be willing to ask the right questions. When I was asking the question, shoot a podcast, go out there and record wherever, get in there and give people your information. It all sounded great because I definitely wanted to help everybody. But there wasn't a connection, an emotional connection for me where I could just get in and be like, hell yeah. And as soon as I figured that out and kept asking that question of myself, finding those little pieces that I could connect the dots and doing it, then I was like, oh, yep, I'm willing to do it. And then, yes, I'm willing to do it every day, because that's what it takes. This brain work takes every day. As I've said before, every day. You can't just cut the slack. You can't take a day off, because if you take a day off, it's like not brushing your teeth for a day, and we all know how nasty that is. So today, I'm going to ask you to check in with yourself and see, What am I willing to do? What am I willing to do for myself? And not just, in a blip. What am I really willing to dig into? Am I willing to just say to yourself, listen, no matter what, I'm just going to focus on my happiness. I'm just going to focus on internally with nothing external driving it. Just be happy. And if that's the case, then that's going to shift lots of things in your world. But if you're willing to do it, boy, oh boy, that is a lot of work, because you're going to run into things constantly that make you not happy. But if you're willing to do it, it will work for you. So get out there, figure out where are those parts where you can jump in and decide, am I willing to do this for myself? Am I willing to do this work? And I will see you tomorrow. Have a blessed day, everybody.